Hi, welcome to another episode of Hot versus Hype, this time with a deep dive. We're looking at the future of AI and how data will shape the next generation of intelligence systems. I'm lucky enough today to have Andreea from Xapo Bank with me. Andreea, do you want to just give a quick overview on what you're working on and what you're doing?
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me in the first place. So as my title says, I am leading the data area at Xapo Bank. I've been with Xapo for the past 4 years, and all this time I've been working enabling the company to be truly a data-driven one.
You sure
So
have.
we started with the foundation of that, and that would be making sure that we have a proper data platform that is well governed and ensures self-service for the entire company. And then on top of that strong foundation, starting to build analytical products, like data products that go into making sure we extract the most value possible from the data that we have.
Yeah, you're pretty lucky. You're working on some interesting things and you've got some really strong foundations that put you in the right place for that. I think what we've
Thank
been
you as well for that.
Well, I was going to say, I think we've been working together for a few years now. And, you know, you should be really proud of some of the stuff that's happening in Xapo from a secure, well-governed data perspective. Now, looking at that with like an AI lens, I know we covered this in you know, the shorter hot versus hype session where you said it's definitely hot, but only if you do these few things as far as AI technology and data shaping that. So I guess let's dig a little deeper into, you know, in financial systems, the way that data is genuinely driving AI forward right now, and maybe unpack a little bit around, given that without strong data skills, it's more of a hype kind of tech that we're seeing. So what is it that makes your data platform and your strategy and the frameworks that you're using be usable and add value to the organization? Big question.
I think part of it's a big one, but I think as the foundation goes, essentially our first concern is always security and privacy for the data. Like when we started, like 3 years back, when we started discussing about the data platform, we started with that conversation. Like at Xapo, we care a lot about security and making sure that everything we do is secure and private and compliant. So we did exactly that. And part of this aspect is also making sure that everything is automated and it's well governed. So that's why we have a data governance framework that is everything is policy as code. It's automated, so there is no manual intervention. It's not the, let's say, traditional way to govern our data, where you have somebody that goes and checks and looks and tells other people and they want to remediate and so on.
Let me touch on that a little bit more. What, when you say policy as code, what is it that alleviates? What is it, and how does it alleviate part of the governance overhead?
So first, you ensure that if you have a policy, that is being followed no matter what. So it's not you're trusting that it's followed. You know it's followed because you enforce it.
And you can track it, and you can see, you know, from
exactly.
logs.
And then and that enforcement doesn't require extra people and extra time. And that's the beauty of it.
Which is important.
Because you can do that with a small team.
Yeah, exactly. So as far as governance is concerned, when you're talking about governance and privacy, you're talking about making sure when people access data, they're accessing only what they should have access to at that given time, and being able to track any interaction with that data and be able to manage it as a product inside the data platform, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we have audits for everything. So we track every little interaction. We have alerts. We have monitoring. So we make sure that nothing not expected is not happening and we don't know about. All the permissions are role based.
Mm-hmm.
So
Which
it's
is
not
hard,
about
right?
somebody.
I
Oh
think that,
yes.
yeah, that's probably one of the holy grails is ensuring role-based access control. So especially in banking, but even more broadly speaking, in the enterprise in general, it's very hard to do some of these AI initiatives if you don't know that you can trust the roles accessing that data at that given time. Are correct?
Yeah, and it's also important that you also know what data is accessed. So what we, as part of the data governance framework, what we do is we're using a service, DLP from Google
Data
to
loss
what we call
yeah.
data loss prevention, that we ensure that we tag automatically all the data that is coming. So before ingesting any data that is tagged, and this way we ensure that we are not bringing PII, personal identifier information, into the platform because it is not required for analytical purposes. So if it's not required, we are not bringing it. And then we have a class of restricted data that in some cases is required, but for you to be able to see it, you need to go through the approval process and to be granted access. So that is properly tagged. We have data owners and all the data is owned, so we know about, so it's not like we have there a data lake, which is sometimes becomes a swamp of data and nobody knows what's there. We do have data owners. They review all those tags. If they need to make manual changes, those are made. And after that the tag gets a green light from the data owner. That's when the ingestion process starts. Of
So
course,
I mean,
automatically.
yeah, that sounds like a fair bit of work, but what you're actually describing is approval protocol that then is implemented via code, right? Because
Yeah.
what you hear from other enterprises is the data team is a blocker, things are taking too long. But that's not the case with setting it up this way, is it?
No, we are just putting a blocker, but that's by design to wait for the green light from the data owner.
I
So
guess
we have everything ready,
yeah.
and then otherwise everything goes slows, and then once we receive the green light, then the data flows in.
I guess my question's more broadly around you've got a distributed system as opposed to a centralized system for access to the data platform. I just wanted you to maybe talk a little bit more about how you designed that framework and why you think it's been successful.
Yeah, right. So maybe I start from the fact that we have a small team, a small data team at Xapo, and that's by design. So from the beginning, we said we don't want to have a big team. We don't want to have an army of people, an army of data analysts. We just prefer to leverage technology and automation to ensure that with a small team, we can make sure that data is available to everybody at Xapo in a secured way and in a properly governed way, but people can self-serve. So that, of course, involves several challenges. That's why we have the automated data governance framework. But I think it's also why the way we structure the lakehouse. So we have the different layers. We have the landing zone, or what we call the bronze. So that's where the raw data comes in. That's a highly restricted layer of the platform. Very few people have access there. Then we have the transformation layer, or the silver, where we transform, and generally the data analysts are the ones that prepare the data for consumption. And then we have the gold layer, where we know that is the layer where everybody in the company has access, and that we know that the data has been reviewed, is properly tagged, has been cleaned, has been transformed, so they can self-serve without having to ask us. Like, essentially, we are not a blocker. We've just turned things on their head, and now we are an enabler.
Yeah, I think that is a key differentiator, being an enabler rather than a blocker. And people earlier in their data journeys struggle with that kind of experience of the data team when it's centralized in a way becoming a blocker, and the data chaos that can sit around distributing it to everyone without having proper governance and checks in place.
And I think there are more things that help. Also, the
Mm-hmm.
fact that we organize the silver layer by domains.
Yes.
So this helps people orient themselves and puts data into context. So in the consumption layer in gold, when they look at the different data sets or tables, they are within their business context, so they understand that. And also every domain, of course, they better understand their own domain, but they can also use and have access data from other domains. And also what helps further, because we have the data in BigQuery, and then you need to have technical skills. You need to write SQL code to be able to consume that. But we also added Looker, which truly makes the data self-serve for everybody. It's much easier to learn and use. And also there we applied even more of the business logic, like we added the semantic layer so people can understand easier and better use the data. So this enables them to serve their own data needs in terms of dashboarding and basing, and then our team can focus truly on building tooling and advanced data products.
And do you think this access is helping from a data culture point of view to be able to, in a way, make people understand when you're moving into the AI initiatives that you're doing now, understand the value of the data within context, and it leading them towards using something like an agent to extract more information or more context, or create and generate using generative AI to help augment part of their jobs? Has this underlying structure and self-help in a way educated them through the process that makes it a bit easier for Xapo as a company to leverage some of the high-tech tools and tool sets and concepts that are out there? I mean, Xapo is predominantly more technical savvy, right, by its nature. So it's always interesting to hear how things are rolled out in a technologically savvy company that understands new tech and how to deploy it and all those intricacies that come with it. Has the data platform made that easier, or do you think that's just part of the journey?
Oh yeah, definitely it has helped. And I think it also helps people understand that it's important to look at data with a critical eye, to always make sure things check out, make sense. So they translate those skills when using AI, like understanding that they should look with a critical eye, whatever answer they get. They shouldn't use AI for anything. They are very careful what information they share with AI. Like we have a very very good AI usage policy internally. So it's not like we're using AI indiscriminately for everything and anything. And so being through this journey and putting data at the center of the company and the thing that I think it helped and prepared us to adopt AI technology in a very responsible manner.
Yeah. So given that people understand it, have access to it, can only see the information that they have the privilege of seeing, as well as being careful around it, it sounds like Xapo is in a pretty good position to start leveraging not only generative AI if it's in a secure and enterprise fashion, but also leveraging more advanced data products. Now, you touched on this before. I'd love to hear a little bit more about what you mean by that.
Yeah, of course. So what we do,
Actually,
like every other company.
let me interrupt. What do you mean when you say a data product? Just so that we're sure we're all on the same page, and then tell me a little bit more about how you design those.
Yeah, of course. I think essentially a data product is anything that takes data and produces something else out of it. So it's not just moving data, just
It's
to make a bit
also
of a difference.
Yeah. Also looking at it with more of a product manager lens.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And having that
So
quality.
it's producing that value. Um, you can go, so in this paradigm, you can go as a data product. It can sometimes take the shape of a table, which might people might be surprised. It's not the product. I think what matters is the content of that table because it depends on for the intended usage. So you need a table sometimes. Some other times a data product can be something more complex. So for instance, we have behavioral clusters describing our member base. So that's a much more complex and it's an entire concept. So those clusters help us understand the different types of customers that we have, what parts of the product they use more, how they behave, what they prefer, how we can better serve them to so they enjoy more our product and our services.
Mm-hmm.
And this way now we have the different teams and areas in the companies um, using the same concepts and looking the same. So this way we ensure that that customer receives whenever they talk, like they use the product and they receive
The right product at
communication,
the
for
right
instance, from
time.
the account manager. They are treated the same, and then they feel that the product is tailored for them, and so on. So it's all about having that, using the data, producing these clusters, and then the rest of the company using them to tailor the experience of the customer.
Would you go as far as saying maybe even creating ontologies?
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, you're seeing a lot of it written about, or hints of it out there about how ontologies are helpful once you start to move into more generative AI projects or um, leveraging AI and generative AI, machine learning, all different branches of it embedded within different parts of the platform. Um, I guess having an ontology would be something that you'd be close to be leveraging.
yeah, could be. I haven't thought about it like this until now.
Oh, that's just another little framework for you to go and think about. There could be another session of mapping it all together to see where the edges are. Just for everyone else's benefit, I think Andreea and I've spent far too much time finding taxonomies, ontologies of things, working out where the edges of that are fuzzy, and then spending countless hours arguing over what the edges are and what they mean and what fits into what. I'd go as far as saying maybe it's a sport for us beyond
Yeah, I
beyond
enjoy
what
it.
we do as our day job.
I can't lie.
It's definitely something that's enjoyable. So, moving right along, I think you've heard it here. Why Andreea thinks that using AI in financial systems is something that is hot, what the value is that's around it, some of the tool sets that she's using. I guess I'll close it out by saying if you had to pick 3 trends moving forward, what would you say they are as far as data's influence and AI influence in financial systems?
I think more and more companies will pay attention to the governance of their data. Now they understand and it is becoming more popular, the idea that data has value and you should collect it, which I think in a way it's kind of an old idea. But the challenge is not to collect the data. That nowadays is relatively easy. Is to be able to make sense of that data, know what you have, and make sure that you have a proper governance so you avoid the risk associated to holding data. Especially when you are a financial company, there are a lot of risks. So you definitely don't want to simply hold it and not care about it. And you want to, there is this challenge between keeping your footprint small enough. Like ideally, you would want to put all your data in a bunker by any connection, so then it's safe. But of
That's what
course,
the
if that
security team
happens,
wants.
if that happens, well, you don't get any
No one
value
can
out of
use
that,
it.
right? So you need to
Yeah,
start connecting and spreading and expanding the footprint. But
in a
the
secure way.
more expanded, it's more risk. It becomes riskier. And
Mm-hmm.
then it's the same with the tools. Like when I say proper governance, I don't mean just in the data environment, like in the data platform. You also need to think a bit in the wider perspective. So I think more and more companies are going to think about, because you see a lot of connectors, and then, send the
Yeah.
data in that tool and the other tool. And sometimes people are very tempted because it's easy, but they don't realize there is that you're spreading your data and you're creating more risk. And not just that you're creating more risk, you're giving your data, which has value, to others. So I think more and more companies will start thinking, okay, before me expanding my footprint, I need to properly evaluate the risks and the value of doing that. And they'll be more considerate.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Understanding the value and not giving that value away necessarily without understanding that you're doing so. So I guess just to finish off, if you had one piece of advice on someone starting this journey and the advice was around how they should treat their data, what would that be?
Make sure that you really know what data you have, and you have the proper controls in place, and also ensure that the AI of your choice, the platform, is indeed guaranteeing you privacy and security for your data.
You've heard it here on Hot versus Hype. Thank you so much for joining us, Andreea. You're very insightful as always, and I really enjoyed the episode.